Welcome. If you will label your paper distributive property at the very top and label it 7.ee.1, we're going to start working on the distributive property today. Okay, so here's our first example. The first thing I want you to notice is that there is no sign in between the 4 and the parenthesis. So anytime we see that there is no sign in between, we know that it is an automatic multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and put my multiplication sign there. And I am going to follow the rainbow. And what that means is we're going to distribute this 4 onto everything inside these parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this 4 onto the 9. And so that's going to be 4 times 9. I'm going to go ahead and bring my plus sign over. And then I'm going to distribute the 4 onto the 12. And I know that 4 times 12 is the next thing. And then I can actually work it out. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 4 times 12, which is 48. So I can go ahead and say 36 plus 48. And I know that 8 plus 6 is going to give me 14, and I can carry my 1. And 4 plus 3 plus 1 is going to give me 8. So my final answer is 84. The next example is using algebra, and the reason it is algebra is because you have variables involved. So again, I'm going to notice that there is no sign in between the 3 and the parentheses. So I'm going to use the rainbow method again, and I'm going to distribute this 3 onto the 5x. So I'm going to go ahead and write 3 times 5x, bring over my plus sign, and then I'm going to do the rainbow again, and I'm going to distribute this 3 times 2. Now I know that 3 times 5, I'm going to multiply the coefficients, gives me 15, and I'm going to bring down my variable, plus 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. And I look to see if I have any like terms, and I have x's on one side, and I have just a constant on the other. So I know that I cannot do anything else because I do not have like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and box it in, and that is my final answer. Okay, on this one, before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and do the keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep this first variable, change this minus to a plus sign, and change the sign of the next. So my new problem is going to be negative 4 times x plus negative 2. And I'm going to rewrite it over here so you can kind of see it a little bit better. And I noticed that I have no sign in between the 4 and the parentheses, so I know I'm going to multiply 4 times everything inside the parentheses. I'm going to distribute it. So I have negative 4 times x, and I notice that there is no coefficient in front of x, so anytime there's not a coefficient in front of x, I can go ahead and put my 1. So negative 4 times 1 is going to give me negative 4 and x. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring my plus sign straight down. And I know that I have a negative 4 times negative 2. And remember my rules, a negative times a negative gives me a positive. So I have 4 times 2, which is 8. And just a quick reminder that if you have a positive times a positive, you get a positive. A negative times a negative, you get a positive. A positive times a negative gives you a negative, and a negative times a positive gives you a negative. Just a quick reminder. And then I'm going to go back over here and notice that I do not have any like terms because I have an x here and a constant here. So that is going to be my final answer. Okay, so this one looks a little different because there's no number in the front. There's just a negative. So anytime you see that, you can go ahead and put a 1 up there because that's actually negative 1 that you're multiplying by. And again, before I get started, I want to go ahead and do the keep, change, change. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as negative 1 times 4m. So I'm keeping the 4m. I'm going to change the minus to addition. and change the sign of the next. So it's going to make it -1 times 4m plus -5. Now I can go ahead and distribute. So I have a -1 times 4m. A negative times a positive is a negative. So 1 times 4 is going to give me 4m. Go ahead and bring down my sign. And then I have a negative times a negative. And if you go back to the rules from the previous example, a negative times a negative gives you a positive. And 1 times 5 is 5. Do I have to have this positive here? Absolutely not. So I could actually rewrite that as -4m plus 5. And I'm going to go ahead and box it in because I noticed that I have an m and then just a constant. And I cannot combine those because they are not like terms. Okay, so here are a few examples for you to try. If you'll go ahead and copy those also down into your notebook. Remember that you have to distribute the number on the outside of the parenthesis to all the numbers on the inside, and then check to see if you have any like terms that you can combine. Don't forget you are always following the rainbow. Good luck, and please write down any questions that you think of so that I can answer them in class tomorrow.